Yes, welcome everyone here to the Smash Sports Show right here on Smash FM here on a Monday here in Melbourne. Of course, let's go up to our friends up in Sydney in particular and, of course, speak with the GWS THYR netball team. Of course, unfortunately, their season in the Premier League unfortunately came to a close pretty early due to the 2-3 month lockdown. But I'm sure they'll be back flying high in 2022. And, of course, we've got two very special guests, of course, both of them are coaches for the upcoming season. Thanks, both, for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
No worries. Well, I'll get both of you to introduce yourselves and tell us which teams you're going to be coaching in 2022.
I'm Nadia and I'm the head coach of the Opens. This is my third year now, so it's very exciting to be heading into that. So, yeah, bring on 2022.
And my name is Kath Tetley. I've been with the under-23s for THYR this is going into my 5th season. So it's my THYR 5th in 2022. And it would be really nice to complete a season this year because I think, as you said, Will, 2021 was really challenging for everyone. And I think we've got some pretty keen athletes for next season.
Now, I got a chance to speak to your respective captains a couple of months ago. And I guess the one thing they mentioned was that I guess they didn't think at the time, your last game was back in June, that the whole season was going to get cancelled. Was that what your thoughts were, or did you sort of feel it might have come as, the weeks went on and you couldn't really get out of the lockdown?
Oh, look, I think certainly from our perspective, we were really taking the lead from what we were watching from a Netball Australia perspective. So what was happening in the background, I guess, for our season of Premier League was that we also at THYR have a number of athletes that are part of national programs and state teams and the Australian Netball League. So I guess really what we were doing at that point in time was watching what was happening from that perspective, and with nationals being called as not going to happen, etc. I think at that point along the journey, as coaches, we were thinking, well, how do we keep looking after our athletes, but be really mindful of I guess that it was a little out of our control and that life and health is critical. And so we just had to put netball and our love for netball in perspective in terms of where we sat amongst everything else that was going on. And certainly I know netball fans everywhere were no doubt watching the Swifts and Giants going from Sydney to Melbourne to, I think at some point someone went to Perth,
yes,
and then
correct,
up to Queensland. So, whilst they got some really nice frequent flyer points up, I think we were all feeling quite realistic about where our season may have ended.
And I think we, obviously kept our perspective with each announcement that came, and the unity between the girls online, offline. Some of them lived in their own areas and LGAs, so they could often get out together. And just really keeping that tight knit of a family, that we kept up that communication, kept them motivated just in case we had that one little inkling that something in New South Wales is going to keep going. We had that opportunity. So we did go all the way to the end, and then that final kind of close off. They all put down their netty shoes and the ball and had a good rest. So I think that was probably where it ended up. But yeah, they did wait and train all the way to the end in their own environments, which was inspiring to see.
Mentally, for the players, obviously it would have been draining for them knowing that, it's getting closer and closer to when, the day that could have been like the finals and all that, it was getting closer as the weeks went on. I guess, how did you, as coaches and coaching staff, obviously your coaches around you, how did you try to keep that, the players, I guess, mentally, into the game, and hopefully, as you mentioned, Nadia, as well, that, there might have been some glimmer of hope?
Yeah, I think so. When it kind of all happened so quickly. It was pretty much came to a stop. So yeah, we had to obviously just make sure that we were giving as many programs and stuff as we could. And I think too, one thing that Kath and I were very mindful of is that not just in our netball environment, but some of these girls lost their jobs. Some of them were obviously going back to homeschooling. Well, some of mine may have been on the front line, whereas Kath had struggling students going through HSC. So whilst that we were mindful of getting them out and keeping them active, and that came from programs where they didn't have to think about it. It was, here you go do this, get it over and done with and come home. And then the online stuff that they just did with teams, but across both teams together, just kept them sane and normal to obviously if we were going to be up and running, they were ready to go. If not, just getting through every challenge that may have been passed on to them, no matter what environment they're in, because we had such a broad range of players and what they were currently doing at the time.
Oh, I would just echo Nadia's words, and the thing that we had too is we had athletes from regional areas who were saying, what are you talking about? What's lockdown? Whereas compared with athletes who were literally sitting in some of those first LGAs that were really tightly locked in. So, and a lot of them were HSC students. So that life balance is no joke. It's actually critical to having really good, healthy athletes. And, as coaches, we've got a responsibility to them as the whole person and not just, netball. So, yeah, I think I couldn't agree more than what Nadia just said. It was hard, but it was about giving them as much life balance as possible, and particularly the ones who were without jobs and were under HSC pressure.
I had a chance to, as I mentioned, talk to your respective captains, and of course they did a fantastic job in doing that. Tell us how important were your captains during those times?
Yeah, look, I think both of them were, as you say, inspirational young women as well as leaders on the court. So we're very blessed in that avenue. And I know that we had obviously not just the two that you had a chance to chat to, but we had like a team of that behind them as well. So, and this year was like that motivation to, put in that extra training, because there was a week where I had a situation where I think I had 2 or 3 players that weren't able to come because they were in an LGA, but we were still playing. So, their emotional support to those who couldn't be there, and vice versa the other way, that led from those 2 captains. So, and I think that's where it made us come together a little bit more, and their role on being, empathetic and knowing what everybody's going through, as well as just, especially Natty, she knock someone on the shoulder, like, we got this, we'll be right. That's her personality, and that's the type of leader that they chose. So yeah, you're right, they are very important in situations like this.
Oh, and look, from our perspective, we love Nat. So Nat's obviously with the Opens. Not only is she an inspiration, but she's an absolute hoot, and so keeps it pretty up vibe for us all. But Bree is also a really kind of inspiring young woman as well, and my sense is the reason that the girls chose her as a leader is that she actually is a person of action. So during that COVID period, she was just one of those up vibe people who just got stuff done and kept people motivated. So good fun, good humans.
And I think too, going from that, Kath, I know I was very proud to see the interaction between the 23s and the Opens. Just the mateship, whether they were carpooling, whether they were doing activities outside the team, and as you say, coming up with hoot stuff and stuff like that, is so good to see. That just, that stuff we're not involved in, but we can watch it happen. So yeah, it's very, very important, but it's nice to see both teams, and as I said, Breeze is a good leader down there to connect those two as well, which is sometimes a challenging thing to do.
Now, I'm not sure both of you got to hear the interview that I did with those with your respective captains, but they spoke very highly of both of you during that interview. I guess, how good is that to hear those words from your captains?
Well, look, Bree is going to be one of the world's best PR humans, right? So, I mean,
weren't we talking about her running for president or something, Kath?
Right? No, well, she's going to be the prime minister, or the head of marketing for the Australian government, or on television being a weather reporter. So, quite frankly, As a PR person myself, I'm on her PR team as often as humanly possible. In all honesty, it's really kind, and it is those things where when players actually do take the time to say those kind words, it really matters, because there are really hard times in coaching, and so to actually have them be that thoughtful was pretty cool.
Yeah, agreed. I actually came from a background where I was playing against Natalie for a few years. Her start of her career and the end of mine. Obviously, we were playing against each other. So, that sort of respect comes from there. But as you say, Kath, it's great to hear what they think and where you've come from and the experience you've got, that they appreciate it so much, because you know what, that's what we're about, just giving and hoping that we're sharing the right information to get them their own goals as well. So, no, but they are very blessed in having that sort of a leadership team for sure.
Now let's talk a bit about both your netball journeys. Where did it all start and why did you choose it?
Okay, I'll go, Nads. So I have done the traditional route. So club into association, into metro. I did academy. And then I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity in Premier League. And then the last 2 years, I've actually been lucky enough to be part of the state team 17s program as assistant coach. But in my work life, I also had this weird parallel where I was working at Netball New South Wales and then Netball Australia and Netball World Cup, and then back to the Swifts and Giants. And, it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I actually realised that I actually was learning so much when I was at work. Like when I wasn't actually coaching, when I was like down courtside, I didn't realise how lucky I was to be watching. Like I was there when there's Jill McIntosh just like doing her amazing thing where she's just concise and precise, and Julie Fitzgerald, who's like the master of celebrating the small stuff. Like, and it wasn't until later I was like, oh, I really should have thanked those people, because I didn't realize I was so lucky to be in and around it. So I had a bit of a mashup sort of really for me.
Mine's probably from the player's perspective. Obviously been playing for quite some time myself. I can't say how long, otherwise it'll reveal how
a long time. It's like
a long time.
And the record. She set the record for the most number of seasons.
The worst part about it is I only retired 3 years ago, which is a bit weird. But anyway, I think obviously coming through and having a state career myself as a player, moving in and being able to play as a member of the Swifts for 2 years and be a part of that under Julie, echoing Kath's words as well, and finding out exactly that what you're learning along the way is going to help you so much in your coaching career as well. I was told very swiftly at one point that, whilst you enjoy this, you do need to make a decision. Are you going to keep playing or are you going to coach? And obviously I thought, well, I can't play forever, so I'm going to have to transition there.
You tried?
Yeah, exactly. Kept going. I even played last year, but that was just because there was nobody else to do it. And I think, I like mine. I didn't go through the grassroots. I've kind of gone the other way. I must admit that I came pretty much straight out of playing into metro coaching. I was also blessed to be an assistant coach with the 17s and 19s for 3 years. And now the head coach of the emerging squad, which sit just underneath these guys. And then obviously Premier League, not just, for being in the Premier League space now for a good 5-6 years. So I think, and now I've gone back to the junior ranks. I did coach a 17s state titles team this year, just to obviously with all the coaching accreditations and facilitation that we do within Netball New South Wales, that both Kath and I are involved in, that you want to experience what these coaches that you're coaching and you're mentoring are going through. So I went back and did the 3 days of coaching. It was the best weekend of my life, but anyway, and we come second, so that was even a bonus. I've had to go back to that avenue because I kind of missed all that. And I, as I said, was involved in the academy side too. So the journeys are long and they do take sort of, forward steps, backward steps. But yeah, definitely being a part of Fury is one of the highlights, and we're blessed to be involved in the family that we are. So so we definitely like to bring all that back to our club, and then obviously branch it out and share it as well.
At this point, I'm allowed to throw in that Nadia was the person that taught me that you have to lose a grand final to win a grand final, because she kicked my butt in my first Premier League grand final. And then the very next year we won the premiership. So I do have to thank her. She likes to bring it up with me randomly. So I figure I'll throw it out into this discussion early, just in case she goes to remind me again.
Yes, no. That was an interesting year, but I did jump ship then to Fury as part of your little family. So I was there with my pom-poms that year. You did win. So, but yes, we were in competition, and I think it was healthy competition. So, and too bad to be in the competition. But yes, we did win. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have to ask this one though. What does the sport of netball mean to, if you consider you've been in it for a while?
Look, for me, I was really fortunate that my cousin actually said to me at the age of 6, come along and play netball with me. And my cousin is sort of like a sister to me. So I felt really lucky that I was introduced to the sport in a family sense. And I guess that has just continued to grow over the years. And after I realized that I wasn't going to be a Nadia level Swifts playing amazing legend, I realized that maybe what I need to do is give back to the sport in other ways. And that's when I turned my hand to coaching at 22. So I had an early realization that it was a coaching future for me.
And look at you now, though. And I think for me, my inspiration came from my mum. She was the president, the umpires convener, was playing until all the way up to 50 odd, and at the club, and I was down at netball from 8 and 7 in the morning to 5 at night, and I think it was probably just bled in me in the end. But I think the biggest thing for me is, and Kath, you're probably the same, but the camaraderie that it adds. I think people say to me, why are you still playing, or why? Because I do play club on a Saturday. But I think it is our competitive streak that is within us, and there's only so much you can add over the white line with your voice. It's always good to get out there and play. Get rid of our own competitive streak, release some of that, and just, the camaraderie that we get. Some of my closest friends and associates are from the game of netball, and, you don't ever want to lose that. And the minute you think, is it time for me to give it away? You go, no. And you just forget about that and keep going. Because, I think it's just the camaraderie, the mateship. And as Kath said, the learning every day from different people and different experiences. I know there's stuff that we've all been through as head coaches that we just go, wow, either I didn't realize we could do that, or wow, I didn't realize that was a challenge for some people, that we often go, well, that was easy. So just chatting and being like-minded and finding out so many other avenues that we can go to is really within the game of netball. So, I did a coach on court session in front of a camera, and it's now a resource for Netball New South Wales. Well, that's a big thing for me to just go, I'm 40% deaf and hearing impaired, and I just think that was not something that I ever thought I was doing. I don't like the sound of my own voice, by the way, but especially on that. But it was outside that comfort zone, and it just made me tick a box to go, that's what we've done. So, and I think there's so many experiences that we've gone through and had to pat each other on the back, and I'm like, this is what I enjoy. So that's, I think netball itself on all levels creates that and gives that back, to everybody who plays it.
Yeah. And when you can't play it, you miss it, and that's what we hear. That's what we hear from athletes all the time. And, for me, particularly that returning athlete from injury, that matters. Your role as a coach is so far beyond just catch and throw building skills. You are choosing to be part of a really important part of the athlete's return to what they love. So I guess that's kind of why you do it, don't you? To see people really enjoy the game.
Both of you have been part of Swiss or Giants. Obviously, both made the grand final. this year. So do you favour one to the other?
This is a good question across the board, because if you make a choice, you just don't understand what it means.
Now, I am one of the New South Wales Suncorp netball supporter, so I'll wait to see what both you mentioned, and then I'll answer who I actually go for.
I'm quite happy to rock up in an orange t-shirt with red and blue pom-poms, man. You know, that's fine. No bridges burned for me.
And I actually can't answer that question because I was working there at the time when we turned the yellow Swifts into red Swifts. So, you know, like I was like in the room when we were drawing Sporty Swift, and she feels like my daughter. And then like, no, if this is for real. And then I happened to be back working at Netball New South Wales when the incredible Julie Fitzgerald returned and put together the Giants. So I legit cannot answer it. I love netball. So I just say I love netball.
Okay, good answer.
I've got so many friends in both environments, and I just go, I don't, can you have a draw? That will work for all of us. That will work for all of us. So, but no, it is a hard decision to make because, and I mean, it's just awesome that both, you know, the best teams in Australia came from New South. So, sorry, I know your dog.
Right. The Vixens had it last year. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It's had to come back.
Yeah.
It's all right.
It's all right. I'm not even a Vixen supporter. I'm a Swift supporter, so it doesn't really matter. So
I just think you just shot in pieces how many more people you have get to come and chat to you.
Doesn't bother me. We'll finish up with a couple of lighthearted questions about your respective Fury teams as well. Firstly, any embarrassing moments by any of your players? You just sit there and...
No, I mean... We've had bundles of nerves players. It's like, it's not funny. Like it's bundles of nerves players who are just a train wreck before the game. But after the game, we have such a great laugh about it and put it all aside. My most embarrassing thing was when I was called out by the players because I had this ridiculous, superstitious game day routine. And when the girls found out about it, they just absolutely tore me apart. So now I feel like I can never have soup on game day because that was part of my routine. So like things like that, I'm just like, okay. And I had to leave the house at a certain time to get to the game. Otherwise, you know, the world was going to come crumbling down. Anyway, the players have sorted me out. But yeah, I had some embarrassment.
Yes, Bree mentioned that. I knew that was coming.
Yeah. Oh dear. Okay.
I think for opens, we have a lot of big personalities, a lot of circus type players, but I think it kind of gets them through in life. So I think that was a barrel of fun off the record. There's a few things I obviously, you know, were privy to or whatever, but I think one of the biggest moments for me is obviously not only the players and their own environments at home, but when we had all the online stuff, and, you know, there was so much of their home environment. So we introduced and they got to meet all each other's families and stuff like that just to see how we go. And there was one occasion where I think all partners, anyone who had a partner that was within the team that obviously had the travel buddy and that sort of stuff. I have pictures of them all wearing each other's dresses. So I have at the moment a profile of all of their boyfriends wearing their dresses, which I will bring up as by it was some of them, but I'm thinking, so yes, we have a nice collage of, not sure it will really make it to the introduction of Fury this year at our launch, but I do have where they were very supportive of their partners, and we all had a good laugh, and obviously embarrassing for them, but yeah, so some of them actually look better in dresses than we did, but that's okay. It's how those opens work, and they obviously attract like-minded partners, so it's really good to know the support that they've got behind each other, but they had a lot of character, so yeah.
Two final ones. Is there any comedians and is anyone on the teams into their TikToks?
Oh, I gotta take Sheridan. Like Sheridan's my girl. Like she's my TikTok go-to, like when I need like old lady advice on what to do TikTok wise, she is my Zen master. Like she's like all up on the cool stuff. So shout out to my girl Sheridan. She's very cool. And of course, Bree's got a pretty strong following on social media. So, you know, I can't leave her out, otherwise she'd probably say something. So, but Sheridan's the dark horse. She has cool moves, man. She's good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Sigrid, who was our new recruit for this year, is a WA country girl, and she brought every little bit of that personality with her, and was, you know, obviously that very loud and boisterous and somewhat honest and funny at the same time. But I'm the same, and Chelsea's probably our other big circus girl, that there's always a joke or a prank, or, you know, she removes heads from other people and puts on the team heads on Instagram and stuff like that. I don't know how many pictures I've seen of myself, you know, making big intercepts, and I'm like, that dude, that's not me. It's not my body anyway. And then I'm same with you, Bree, who happens to be besties with one of the other girls in my team, which is Georgie. Georgie actually owns, and she's going to kill me for saying this, but she has a farm, and obviously that, and is a horse jumper and stuff like that. Both Georgie and Bree made a Saddle Club song. I don't know if you'll be able to find it, but it's an imitation of Saddle Club. Kath, I can't believe you haven't seen it. And both of them are singing in Saddle Club, and oh my God, it was the funniest thing. And Georgie says, do not ever bring that up again. So if she ever sees this, she's going to But both her and Bree were in fine tune, fine form, and yes, very much Saddle Club all the way. There was someone else involved, but I don't think it was anyone we know. So, yeah. But yes, no, there are definitely some characters, that's for sure.
We'll finish up with this one last one, which is, what would be your advice to people out there that should get involved in netball, especially on the coaching side of things?
Sorry, you go, Naz.
No, you're right. Basically, I was just going to say, basically, if it's something you really want to do, not obviously just only in coaching of netball, but coaching of any type, I think it's, you know, inspirational, it's rewarding. If that's what you're looking for, to be able to produce other players and in any sort of avenue. Netball alone, though, there's so many resources and things that you can learn and do. Give it a go. Everybody often asks me, you know, I really want to do this as my outcome, but how do I know that I'm going to get there? I'm like, all you do is have control over how far you want to go. One of the inspirations for myself is a high performance, which is the last level for Australia. And, you know, it may not get me anywhere because you can't have 47 people in one job, but I'll know that I've gone as far as I've been able to do. So that's a little bit of advice I often give people is, you know, you go do as high things as you can in your own control. You get a job outside of that as a bonus.
And look, for myself, I think it's just about being with people that are like-minded and positive and keeping those kind of people around you. I remember Julie Fitzgerald always saying, coaching just keeps me young. I just like being around young people. And, you know, that gets really important as you enjoy your coaching. So being around young people, being around people that are trying to grow and are challenging you and asking you, how can I be better? I just love that kind of energy, because life is short, and you may as well grab it all as hard and run as fast as you can.
Sophie, thank you so much for giving up your time to join us. It's awesome having both on the show. Hopefully we'll be coming up to Sydney. It's been I was hoping to come up this year, but lockdown hasn't worked for Sydney or Melbourne. So hopefully next year is a much better year, obviously, and hopefully for yourselves that you can get to another, at least a full season again in 2022.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
And we make sure you've got some nice high-vis orange to come to some Premier League and support the Fury.
Definitely.
And that's Kath and Nadia there, joins from the GWS Fury netball team, because we'll put the schedule up once it's up, once it's out, of course, early next year in 2022. There's more on the Smash Sports Show right after this. Don't go away here on the 10th year celebration.